Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Board Operations Committee meeting to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The second item on our agenda is the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Those would be the meeting minutes from July 16th, 2025, and they're being presented for approval. Does anyone have any changes or comments on those? All right, thank you. Moving along, public participation was item 3, but we have no one signed up for public participation. So we can move right along to item 4, items for discussion. Item 4.1, disposal report.
Yes, the August.
No.
And it's supposed to be recorded, right? Because I don't see anybody.
Sorry. The August asset disposal consisted of mostly technology, some obsolete furniture, and some walkie-talkies for that were sent for replacement. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? All right, moving on to item 4.2, treasurer's report.
We finished. Okay, sorry about that. We finished June strong, very pleased to report. I will say that we received over 100% of our revenues that we were expecting, which is phenomenal. Our expenditure summary by object, we're at 98%. Again, these are tentative because we do have to go through our audit process. That process is actually starting September 3rd, so we're gearing up for audit, and we will have a report in December. And the only thing I would like to say is that interest did come through for us this year. It's 167.9% of what we budgeted and $9.9 million. Of course, those rates are starting to go down, but we have strategically laddered our investments, so we are still sitting in the mid 5% in a lot of our funds.
Great. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Okay, thank you. Item 4.3, copier paper bid extension time.
Yes, the next quarter for the copier paper is from September 24th to November 30th. We're asking to award again to Garvey Office Products with the estimated contract to be $53,633.70. They're still holding their price, which at the time of bid was 26% decrease.
Great. Any questions on that?
The only thing I'll say is that they really came through for us on a bind with some overnight labels that we really needed for Chromebook distribution. So I will say it was really nice having a partner like that showed up.
Great. Item 4.4, nurse and athletic supplies bid extension.
Yes, we're recommending the extension of the nurse and supply and athletic supply extension to school health again this year. They held their pricing except for 3 items, and they still stayed below CPI. We've had great feedback from the schools, from the athletic side and from the nurses side, that the quality of the products are exactly what they were looking for.
Great. Any comments or questions on that item? Okay, thank you. Item 4.5, change order approval.
Good afternoon. This is a change order for wireless mics for the theater renovations at both Dundee Crown and at Jacobs. The board has an 8-pack of wireless microphones, or 8 set. So Part of the package was that the district also purchased a 16 set of wireless microphones to travel in between schools for their theater engagements and for the concerts. After talking with the APOs, the theater personnel, and then also with our Director of Fine Arts, Chris Columbaro, we are requesting an additional 12 microphone set. This would bring us up to 36 microphones, which everyone feels is substantial and is the number we need for every student to have a microphone and not have any issues. So following the grand total for these additional costs is $53,130.32. Following the procedure for change orders, Board Member Christine Burkett approved this change order. The fiscal impact is a total of $53,130.32 and will be paid out of the Capital Projects Fund.
Great, and thank you for, when we spoke, he did explain to me that, now is the appropriate time to do this because there's an advantage to doing it now, so it can all be paired together. So that was part of the urgency there, was just to be conscious of that. So thank you for explaining that so well at the time, and I'm glad that hopefully the next few theater productions will have all really good audio.
They better, I'm just kidding.
Item 4.6, roofing consultation services contract renewal.
Yeah, as part of our District 300 facility plan process, Interstate Roofing Consultants evaluates the conditions of our roofs on a 5-year rolling plan. This is to make sure that our roofs are in good condition, that we're not deteriorating at an elevated or escalated rate, and also we're on top of everything. So under that work they've done this year, we are planning to design work at Dundee Middle School, Newbert Elementary, and Eastview. So Dundee Middle School will be in bid package 1 for replacement, and then Newbert and Eastview, their sections would be bid package 2. The administration recommends awarding Interstate Roofing Systems consultants and their team to contract to perform roofing surveys, evaluations, and moisture scans, provide documentation, and update the 5-year roofing plan. The costs are as follows. Design work for Dundee Middle School, $18,500, and then a design work for Newbert and Eastview, $18,500, for a grand total of $37,000, which will be paid out of the Capital Improvement Fund.
One thing I will add is this 5-year rolling plan has been added to the master facility plan with Leggett.
Great.
This is our consultant who does our roofs for us.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
Quick one. So the 18.5, Newbert and Eastview are combined for the 18.5,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
yeah, no.
yep.
When is the work gonna be done?
For which school? Oh, so
Either of the,
So this will be for next summer of '25. This is to design, get everything ready to go out to bid package, and then prepare it for the summer work.
Great. No questions from me, so thank you. Item 4.7, construction update.
Yeah, so DMS HVAC renovations, we have substantially completed phase 2, which is the main office area, and then the wing to the west, kind of technically the front of the building for the front entrance. So those rooms are all done. The units are operating. Very cold in some areas. I mean, it's being fine-tuned. So right now we're just going through doing punch list items, but the couple extra things that were thrown in at the request of the school with expanding the office space all came on. Our construction team did an amazing job adjusting to that last minute and getting that done for us. We were really pleased with that and the work there, and we look forward to phase 3 next year. The summer renovations, let's see, Jacobs toilet rooms, Sleepy Hollow, that's old there. I don't know why that's on there. But so for Jacobs toilet rooms, we are complete, substantially complete. We have just some minor punch list items there. The auditorium is still, we had a change order, if you remember, for the auditorium for the lighting and also the carpet. The carpet can't go down without the track lighting in the aisle. So that is on point to be delivered, or the shipping date is August 29th for that. So as soon as that gets in, we will schedule with LAMP to get that completed after hours, the carpeting, and then also the lighting go down on top of that. In the meantime, that area is not open for students. it's off limits as we continue to also do some work on the stage too. But bathrooms are complete. They're turned out. I mean, if you guys get a chance, I'm not saying go use the washrooms, but definitely go check them out. They look amazing on the first floor. So
And he'll share that with you on September 10th. Or, no, actually August 27th.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So the theater renovations also at Dundee Crown are going well. We are wrapping that up also, similar to Jacobs, not allowing any students in, obviously, until we're completed, but that's wrapping up, I believe, the end of this week. Hopefully, we'll have substantially complete there. And then we have Westfield Middle School, all the classrooms, that's been completed since middle July. Lamp was able to turn that over to us early, so we got that completely taken care of. That turned out fantastic. And then we have phase 3 next year of the hallways. So that school after next year will be all classrooms and hallways done at Westfield Community School. The Eastview and the Liberty areas of rescue, that was kind of a holdover this year with different wiring. That is in case there's an emergency, you push a button in the stairwell to notify authorities where you are. So that is, I believe, Liberty is completely done. Eastview, when they installed it, the device was faulty, the notifier device. So that is, if I remember correctly, I think it's next week that was supposed to come in. So they told me so. But I believe that's. And then, we all know that the chiller is complete at Jacobs, and it's running strong, and it's cold in there. So, yeah. Any questions? Sorry.
When is the next field trip to the children?
In the chiller room, you have a standing invitation to chill at our chiller room anytime you want. Of course, we get the nice cool start to the school year. I was kind of hoping I wasn't hoping.
Yeah, be careful what you wish
I
for.
know. I'll keep that to myself.
Right, great. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. Looking forward to when you do the slideshow at the next meeting. Item 4.8, Dundee Middle School Traffic Study Report Follow-Up.
Yeah, as you recall, last meeting, we had Rory Francier Split from Kimley Horn here. She unfortunately could not be here tonight because she is testifying in court. However, Emma Albers is here. She's a traffic engineer with Kimley Horn, and John and I have had a couple of phone calls with her and Rory. And so she's going to provide an update on some additional options that we have. So I'm going to pull it up.
Is this on? No. Do I need to turn it on? Can you hear me? Okay. Do I need to click?
Yep, you're going to click.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yes, as Jennifer said, I'm Emma Albers. I work very closely with Rory. This is a really cool project. We don't get to work on exciting stuff a lot. This is actually kind of cool. You guys, I think, can see some nice plans that Rory put together. So I just get to be the messenger. So kind of just to reset the table, at Dundee Middle School, ultimately there is some undesirable queuing that is happening on 72. I think undesirable might be a generous term. But the goals are for safe and efficient student drop-off, maintain a certain number of parking spaces. There are 130 staff at that school, so we use that as kind of a baseline minimum for required parking in the 2 lots. Bus access for 21 loading spaces and 6 special needs spaces. And then really the ultimate goal is to minimize that queue that's happening off-site on 72. So we did observations. That existing queue is about 1,475 feet. Based on 25 to 26 enrollment, we expect that to increase just a little bit as student enrollment increases. So that's what we were planning for in some of the alternatives that we've put together. And some of these y'all have seen before, but just again to set the table, the constraints on the site, basically we're trying to really optimize that existing pavement because there's not a lot of other places to go. We're constrained, north, south, east, and west. So there are a couple opportunities for a small amount of new pavement, which we'll go over. And then we considered some new access or changes to existing access that we'll talk about as we run through these. And we did, we've talked about trade-offs in the past. Each of these alternatives have trade-offs. There's likely no perfect option based on, what's the infrastructure currently out there. So we've kind of labeled these good, better, best based on kind of the return on investment and what the efficiency of each of these alternatives will be. So alternative 1A would be to provide additional storage on 72. Basically, that, you know, it's happening today that people are queued in the through lane, causing problems for traffic that is trying to go through on 72. So we would provide basically a longer right turn lane for cars to move into and out of the westbound through lane and get them, you know, basically out of the thoroughfare. This does get you the storage. We are very hesitant about this option as IDOT is a major risk. Currently, y'all are operating a little under the radar with the department. We have seen recently actually like a Starbucks shut down, not in this not in this community, but because of queuing onto an IDOT facility. So if we would open this option up to IDOT, they may, you know, say no. Likely we're not be comfortable with this much queuing onto their roadway. That said, it would give you the space that you need that's no longer impacting the through traffic on 72. So again, the blue and orange are kind of the trade-offs, right? There'll be no changes to parking, very, very limited impact to the actual school property, but adversely, we still have that queue spill back on 72. This would require IDOT review and approval, which would be probably 12 to 18 months just to go through a review and approval with them, and no guarantee that it would be approved. And then for each of these alternatives, we have developed high-level construction cost estimates that I'm confident LAMP could refine, right? So these are engineers' high-level estimates. This was just construction costs, so would not include any permitting or design of this alternative. Do you want me to go through all of these, or will you guys jump in if you have questions?
No, I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a question first? Oh, I have a question. So you said that the risk with going to IDOT is that they would not be happy with our current situation
Yeah.
that we're queuing, and
Yeah.
they could do what?
Right. I mean, you are a school, so it's like, I mean, right. What are they going to say
Like, it's
to
not
you?
a Starbucks, we're
But-
essential.
Right. You're essential service. I think they would ask you to evaluate other options internal to your site, because it's generally not a desirable condition to be queuing that far onto their roadway, even though it's in a right turn lane.
Right, but the request would be to make it so that we're not queuing onto their roadway, right? I'm just trying to understand
Sure.
like why they would have a problem with a request that would hopefully help with a solution.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to necessarily ask them about this, given my professional experience with them. But
Okay.
yes, I understand. Okay, we're making it a little better, but
Right, okay.
Yeah. yes.
As part of this, and maybe it's the next alternative or option, would be to look to the village, find out, it's hard to tell where the property line is there, but I assume there's some area between 72, which is owned by, is that county or is that
This is all IDOT right away.
all IDOT?
This would, yep.
So,
So I would assume the school's right-of-way line is probably somewhere, see the white line that's power? It's
Right.
probably somewhere around there. So this would all be required in IDOT right-of-way, which is why we would need their
I was just
review and
wondering if there was
approval.
some area between here and the parking lot that could be a queuing area, but not necessarily increase parking lot space. It would be less expensive. I don't know if that's something that was looked at or not.
We've got 5 more alternatives.
Okay.
I think this one is good, but I think we have better and best alternatives. So alternative 1B, I believe you all have seen before. So this, students enter from the signal where everyone enters today, and student and drop off and pickup would route through the parking lot first. So does this have a pointer? Kind of the west side of the parking lot. See the blue arrow is going north. They circulate that way, and then they would come south into the existing drop-off area. The trade-off is this would then be driver's side loading and unloading in front of the school. Then they would have to kind of shift lanes as they're entering where the star is, where there would be kind of that crossover intersection that is currently police controlled, and then exit back out this signal. This keeps bus loading where it currently is today, but there is then staff parking would be in that south parking lot and part of the west parking lot.
Did you find the pointer on here? There's one at the green line.
Oh, there we go. But I can't, but it won't
Oh.
show up on the screen.
Got it.
Yeah. Technology.
Sorry.
Yeah. This would be minimal restriping exercise, so cost is lower, and all of your queuing would occur on site. So basically, the 1,500 feet would be accommodated internal to the site.
So would all the parking spots switch the direction?
It's a good question. Yes, they should.
Okay.
Yeah. That will be included in the restriping, right? Because we're changing the direction of those drive aisles. Okay. Then we're calling 1C best. I think this gives the school a lot of flexibility and provides a lot of queuing space on site. So all students and buses would still enter in the signal where they enter today. They would travel north on kind of that throat, make a left, and then there would be a separate lane. So the blue is vehicles and the red is buses. There would be a solid double yellow line between those, separating them out. Buses would then load and unload in the yellow, and then vehicles would continue to circulate all the way around the school, up north, travel east, then south along the east side of the school, and then pickup drop-off area would be pink, located on the south side of the school. So just to kind of put it in perspective, the length of kind of the south side, east side, and north side of the building, that's about 1,300 feet. So with your projected queue of 1,500 feet, that would mean all of the expected student queue would be accommodated on site around the building, with no impacts to 72. You'll see no connection to Recreation Drive. Those are coming in a second. But the basic improvement would be a connection on the northwest corner of the parking lot, connecting basically the parking lot to the existing drive aisle that runs north of the building. Then the downside of this is that it would be a reduction in parking spaces of about 47 stalls. There are currently 275 stalls on site. From what we've observed, they are generally not fully parked. Teachers may have thoughts about needing to park on the south side of the building versus where they're doing that today. But it does kind of consolidate all the staff parking into the blue area on the south side of the building. And it allows staff and teachers to be the only folks using the unsignalized intersection, allowing them, no mixing with buses and parent drop-off. Questions on this? Or John or Jennifer, anything to add on this one?
Can I add something real quick? So the one thing about 1C that is different from 1B, 1B, the concern at the last meeting was that we were dropping off students on the driver's side.
Yes, this is
Where
passenger.
this one, they would be dropped off on the passenger side.
Where would the special needs student that drop off?
So Deb was on our prep call today, and we threw out a couple options. She was confident there could be a solution worked out for this one.
The idea would be in that front, like where the yellow, they would probably pull right up to the front of the school then and drop off there. Yeah.
Which is what we do generally for any traffic pattern for students with special needs.
Yeah, because they could likely just travel north, like, where the buses are going, and then travel just right there and then swing that U-turn, because it's a smaller bus.
But with any of these decisions, we would guarantee that we would make sure that students with special needs would have the ideal entrance with the correct location to enter the building.
That's correct.
Yeah, Chuck.
Truck,
It kind of looks like buses and cars are intermingled here as they enter the property, and that's something we normally don't do, or am I just reading it wrong? So it looks like as they're
They
coming
would-
in, they're both coming in and going to the same point. Is that correct? Normally, we don't have that.
Yeah, so they would be, but that's what's happening today. Buses are entering the
No.
unsignalized.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
So they would be traveling just that throat width together.
Right.
And then once they get to the corner, they would separate out. And so, as I mentioned, that distance all the way, around the building, because we had talked about, are they going to get stuck in the queue, right, of cars? Based on what we've observed out there, there won't be queuing of vehicles in that far west side. So buses, yes, after they do mix for 300 feet or so with passengers, then they would be able to get out. Yeah.
We have the same thing at HMS where they come in right next to each other.
And they separate.
Yeah, they separate,
Right.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And we also talked about expanding potentially that driveway.
Correct.
Widening it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because currently coming in, my daughter goes to this school, so I'm very familiar. But like, I don't even know if a bus could make that left turn to go around. That turn is really hard to even make in a car,
It's short.
in a small car. I have a small car. So I feel like that corner, which I'm trying to point in, that one corner something would have to be done to that corner, that bottom,
There-
that corner where everyone's turning left when they're coming in, the
There
southwest,
would
yeah.
need to be some modifications to the current islands that are there.
Yeah,
some
'cause
of that
that's-
thing. But as what Mrs. Porter was saying, widening that, the only issue with that, not an issue, but the one is that that's where both retention ponds are to the right, so there'd be some engineering cost into that and probably some dirt work, basically.
Yeah, and then how would it be controlled when the buses are coming back out and need to cross where the cars are coming in?
So that
'Cause
would still be-
People don't cooperate.
That
when
would
they're
still
trying to
be
get their-
police controlled like it is today.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
I think in all these alternatives, that intersection kind of crossover point would still be maintained by a police officer.
I also would add at all of our middle schools, that's the last drop-off point. So we generally have buses waiting until parent drop-off is complete before they pull off the property.
is there room for them to sit there, though? Or is that a whole yellow area, like where the buses would sit, instead of don't they currently sit in the front?
Yeah, I'm interpreting this that the yellow areas where
Yeah.
they would be relocated and they
Oh,
would
so there'd
sit-
be no more parking there, that would be a total bus zone, like a bus
yes.
zone?
During the school day, correct, yeah.
And so then the current bus loading, which is on the south side of the building, would be parking, would be
For staff?
for
but-
staff.
But then what if you have to come do like an activity or drop your kid off?
Staff would be at the south.
Right.
The clear area below the yellow would be for visitor parking for coming into the building.
So
So way far away from the entrance to the building. I mean, that's really,
A little bit of a distance.
yeah.
There is potential on that north side there's also some ability to do it with some signage and things, but
Yeah, I think
that's, yeah.
the other concern is I know you're losing 47 spaces, which doesn't seem like a lot during the school day, but for an after-school activity, it's very hard to park there. That parking lot totally fills up. And now you've got the main area right where you're bringing your grandma and your grandpa who need to get into the building is a bus-only zone that would that be open for?
Because I think generally buses would be gone by the time those after-school activities
Okay, people
begin.
park really crazy in there when it's the bus thing. So if there was some way to like designate, like mark it as such so that it would make sense for where to park a car, that would probably be helpful too.
Just a comment to add to what you said. So I don't like the idea of losing things when we're doing a project like this, right? So you started by saying we're showing growth to the school. We know that, we've seen it. So I'd like to, and John, you mentioned we're going to be moving some dirt. So if we're going to move dirt, why don't we figure out how to not lose 50 spaces and,
Yeah.
include that in this project to come back?
So there is the opportunity in basically south of the blue area. We
Okay.
could expand that and provide another row of parking.
Yep.
That one more row would get about 30 spaces. So we'd still be at a net loss of about 17. The BMP is located, there would need to be the BMP is located on the west side of kind of the grass area. So some regrading and some stormwater revisions, but the pavement could be added.
Brian, did you want to add something?
Yep, right.
Bus parking for cars.
That,
Usually do them two different colors, so when they afternoon activities, you can double stack those.
yeah, that would be helpful because that's going to be where all the parents are going to want to go because that's where all the kids come in and out. And I mean, I get why you're doing it this way for this because it solves a lot of problems as well, but then it
Yeah.
throws some new ones in too. So, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Currently have that at Jacobs in their student parking lot, where you have spaces for them, and then you have the band in a different color, the way they lay out the football field. So you have that in other locations already, so.
Yeah, great. I figured it could be done.
John, for the winter months, we get a real huge snowfall. Where is where is the snow dropped off?
The snow on where like, if we're looking at this, where the buses are dropped now.
Yes.
The snow is pushed to the west,
Okay,
and then the snow is pushed to the east in the blue lot.
so that doesn't
It
impact,
won't impact, no, sir.
no impact,
Yeah.
okay.
And this would
Now, if
remove
we
some
get-
islands that he doesn't like either.
Yeah,
This-
we don't like the islands there, but that's, but now, in like a 1 foot event, you may lose some space like we
Yeah.
do at every building, but for the most part, we push everything off of the asphalt at those buildings.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I think this is better, and I agree with Steve that like if there was a way to have a little less compromise, that would be even better. But it's getting there.
It's getting there. We're getting there. So those were all the alternatives without recreation drive. Then we will dive into some recreation drive connection options. Again, this has been presented before, I believe. So we took, again, high level cost estimate at the extension of recreation drive. That has been separated out from the cost estimate of any of the improvements that would be associated with just the school. So
And just to be clear, the recreation drive doesn't necessarily mean that's something the district would put in there. They were just estimating at a high level what that extension perhaps may be.
And for the contractors in the room, we assumed no curb and gutter, just a 20-foot asphalt section, which is how we got to that number.
That would be our drive, or is that
That's,
township?
that's the village.
Yeah.
So, so alternative 2A would be the changing of all students would access campus via recreation drive only, which I believe is not a desirable condition. And then 72 access would be limited to bus and staff only. So buses would use those two accesses. Staff would use 72 as well. That does obviously create a separation between vehicles, buses, and staff, but this would be a more expensive alternative. Other trade-offs, it would still be driver side loading because the loading would be on the west side of the building with vehicles traveling south. And a positive, there would be no change to parking. Questions on this one? Okay, the next two are very similar to 1C, basically just with the added recreation drive connection. So this option allows for kind of the route that we just talked about with 1C and an additional route coming from the north off of recreation. Then those vehicles would merge at the point with the star, up, kind of the orange star up, kind of where recreation would come in. They would then funnel south into the pickup and loading area in the pink on the south side of the building. The difference of this one is we developed a concept which would combine buses and vehicles on the west side, so traveling north, kind of on the left side of the yellow. That would keep all of the parking that is currently there. It would mix buses and vehicles for a longer period of time. Then alternative 2C is separating those two out, losing the parking like we discussed in 1C.
Do we have any example of the mixing of the bus and the car and like delays on when kids can get off the bus? Do you have any example in any of our schools that does that right now?
Do you mean like where there's a delay because there's a backup of cars? Is that what you're talking about?
The bus and the cars are mixed together, like causing delays maybe?
I don't think so. I don't think delays. I have not heard of any, but we do mix them at Hampshire Middle School when they come in. There's two separate lanes they come in, and then they split off.
There's also mixing at CMS for bus drop-off and staff parking,
Correct, yes. Yeah.
but it does not hold up the process.
And I think the one big thing here is that by wrapping all the way around the building, you should have a steady flow all the way through, and then when the buses break off, you won't see a queue until the back side of the building.
Have you gotten input, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm
Yep.
sorry. Have you gotten input from the DMS administration about these plans at all?
Yeah, we talked to them this afternoon, actually, about the new plan that we just saw at the best option.
Okay.
And they were very favorable to it. They're also favorable to the options that we did provide with the recreation drive. They really want to see the parking change, or the travel in change.
But today was the first day that they've seen these?
Yeah, we actually got them today
Okay.
from Kimley, and we went through them this morning, John, Deb, and myself with Kimley, and then we went over there and we talked with Dr. Berkey and Leo.
I do want to add that I have previously spoken to the principal about this myself. So today was not the first time that he had the conversation or was able to express that he knows that we need to do
Yeah.
something. So he is in support of
Thank you.
what this team decides with the board.
Thank you.
Does the budget that you have there for the recreation drive, does that include like consultation with the village and see like what impact or anything else that's gonna be needed to get that drive done?
No, that is something that we will talk about after Emma is complete, about just an inquiry from the village. But I figured we'd talk about that after she was done.
Is there a possibility of more money?
It is potentially more money, but what we're showing right here is just what the total cost would be as far as what they anticipate for that cost for Recreation Drive extending. When I spoke, the village originally gave us a cost of $700,000 for that extension, which would be split between 4 parties.
Yeah, can you explain her purpose versus when we join in with the village to discuss next steps on this?
I'm sorry.
Her purpose of this presentation
Oh, yes.
as it relates to what we will do with this information
Yeah.
to then speak to the village.
So one of the things we definitely wanted to do is we want to first off solve the issue with the parking and the safety over at DMS. That is the priority here. The secondary is the village is inquiring whether or not we do want to move forward as a partnership with that extension.
Okay. So regardless, were you gonna ask a follow-up? I guess I'm gonna
Yeah,
tag,
I was just gonna ask in regards to that recreation drive.
Yeah.
What are like you said, 4 parties. What four parties like have advantages to that drive?
So the 4 parties that would have an advantage would be the district, because we would be obviously diverting traffic that way. It would be the park district. The park district is interested in having additional roadway come through that way for their ballparks, as well as being paved. And then obviously the developer would have some skin in the game, because they would have an ulterior in and out through that road. And then the village would also have a part in it.
Is that the same developer that we talked about a while ago?
Yes, it's Lennar.
But the road that we're seeing here that's running along the geothermal and the track, that is D300 only.
That is
correct?
D300 only. We have a gate there currently, and we would keep that gate shut. It would only be open when school is for arrival or dismissal.
Okay, and what was the conclusion with Bernard and us? Remember when we talked about it?
At that point, we were not in a place to make a decision on that piece, because we wanted to do a traffic study, because we knew we had the issue. I wanted to get an expert's opinion on what our alternatives would be for this site.
Are we able to get them to do the rest of the drive? Instead of us
For
paying-
recreation,
Instead of us paying for it, because they have more advantages to it?
that is something that we have talked with them. Right now, they are open to opening that discussion up, but what they would like to do is see if there's any interest from the district in that. The Park District voted on August 7th to go ahead and move forward with donation of the property, as well as their impact fee donation up to the max what they had asked for before. But the village is not willing to engage in a conversation with the developer until the district says that we are interested in them examining that option.
Because I was gonna say, I think we should try as much as we can to get the most from them.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make one clarification to a comment? Okay, so the recreation road, we own about 5 feet from that gate, and then the road is actually owned by the Park District. That little
Oh, okay.
sliver, that little sliver of land is the Park District property. And that would be one of the things, as Ms. Porter said, they would donate that land to the village. And that land goes up to about 10 feet to our track. About 10 feet off our track, roughly, is where that property starts.
So that quote of 250 that would not include, you said it would not include curbs, sidewalks, what else?
It's literally just 20 feet wide
Of
of
asphalt.
of asphalt
Okay.
and subgrade.
So to do this right, to get all parties together, I mean, we're going to have egress and we're going to have students walking through there, right? I mean, ideally, that's would be the big picture,
It
so.
would match the current cross-section of like the east-west portion of the park districts up further north.
So there would be, to your point, there would be some incentive to make that done the right way because it will help all students in different ways, going to Park District access as well as our school.
Access and then access to their neighborhoods
Right.
too. if they live
Yeah, neighborhoods as well. Okay, thank you.
Chad, did you want to add something?
Just we might need to add detention. We're adding more impervious surface, and the problem I see with that is, which we could possibly coordinate with the DMS track, but adding volume underneath the interior field to handle the volume, because the problem is that's a low area. So you can't move the water up to the detention ponds that are up at the higher elevation. So that would be something we would have to look at if this is a desired option. So that number can change quite a
Drastically.
bit if that triggers that requirement.
So, speaking professionally from a traffic perspective, we believe that the Dundee Middle School queue can be accommodated internal to the existing site without the need for queuing on Recreation Drive.
And that's 1B.
Sorry, 1C.
1C.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I mean, we lose in the least amount of spaces. Not less than 47 probably, as much as we can.
If we would construct some additional pavement on the cost would go up, I think, 6 digits. Yeah,
But it'll be less than the other one, doing Recreation Drive,
right.
looks like, okay. All right.
Out, and then once they're parked, turning right.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, what I was speaking about with Mrs. Burkett is, I understand where in the west, as the buses and cars come up, turning left, that's a challenge for buses. Also, parking, the way they're parked diagonally, turning right, I don't know how much leeway they need, but that I'm guessing would be a challenge also. Okay.
No, that basically would be why we would have to reconfigure some of the aisles.
Okay, perfect, there we go, thank you.
Yeah, my only other concern about this plan is I can see the temptation of kids getting out along the north side of the building in the back and trying to go in the door that they're all used to going into, so. Yeah, and just sitting there when you're like, okay, I need to get into school, and I gotta go all the way, I'll be impatient, I gotta go all the way around the building when the door's right there.
We discussed that with the administration, the building administration today about that.
Yeah.
How long would this project take to do? Ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, probably a couple weeks. What we actually liked about this one too is with just that one pavement connection up on the northwest corner, you could pilot it. So, you know, if the pavement could go down, and that is obviously an expense, right, to try it, but we could get that pavement down and then do a pilot. So before we formally restripe the whole parking lot.
One more question. With, using around the outside of the building, like the north and the east corner, is there an option for after-school activities for cars to park on one side of the road there to gain some extra, like parallel park for some extra space? People do it anyway, but you could like make it official and.
It's all yellow line, I think you have no.
No, because of emergency? Okay. I was just trying to think of like something that might help. That would be easy. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Minor clarification from our end over here. The cost that the village came up with that they're talking about is the 4 entities, so that 250 number might actually be, could be a high number for the cost that the school district may have to incur. Are we understanding that right or wrong?
So originally, it was, the district would donate, shouldn't say donate, the district would forego 116,000 of impact fees. The park district would forego 132,000. The village would kick in 191,000, and the developer would pay for about 240,000. And what the thought was is that the developer would help with the construction of the road. Now, that was prior, and this is before, the village has asked then again for the board's direction if we're interested in them going back to the developer, since that is closed, if we want to just examine what it could be without a commitment.
So it's really based upon what they had discussed as a previous, it would have been 116, not 250.
Correct.
And if that agreement were still available, it would be less than half of the 250, and it would be constructed as curb and gutter and everything else being constructed for long term. The other thing that we were discussing is with history of this parking lot where you're going to potentially put the buses, it was not built as a load-bearing parking lot for buses. It was built for passenger traffic, not for bus traffic, and we build those differently. So, and it's also not the newest pavement either.
No, and I think that's one of the things that during our master facility plan process, we do know that some of our parking lots are failing or they're lived their life, so that we will have to actually address some of them. But that is something that we would have to look at. The one thing I do want to say is that I attended the August 7th Dundee Park District Board meeting. They did vote on this, but what they did vote on working with the village, what their vote was is that they would be in favor of donating the land, but the max that they would go up to is what their original quote was as far as the impact fees. And as long as they were very conscious of working with them as far as on safety. Because that's one of their concerns, is having the safety, guards in there.
Would it be possible to get like a summary of some of what we've discussed in writing? Just because a lot is flying around and, like the fees and stuff, I'm trying to write them down,
I'll make
but
sure
I'm
you
not.
I'll make sure you have the summary.
Okay, thank you. Because I think that
So-
would be helpful.
What are we looking for from the board at this, are we done with your part of it? Are you summarizing?
Yep, so this is
There you go.
just,
Let's
yep,
take a look at this.
kind of a list of, hey, these are kind of the things that we get with each alternative, planning level cost. None of those planning level costs include the cost of recreation drive. So all alternatives with the number 2 would have the additional cost of recreation drive to be a viable alternative. That's what I have. So thank you for bearing with me.
No,
Thank you.
well done.
And
So-
what I'm looking for
Yeah.
is just some direction of where you guys think we should move next. The other thing I would like to know is if the board is interested in actually having me engage with the village to see if we want to have them speak with the developer and get an estimate of what potentially, or if they would even be willing to work with us.
I'll speak as one board member. And that, sometimes you have to seize opportunities. And to me, when Chuck asked the question and you reviewed the dollar amount, to me, to change everything for the best and in the future, and what it means to the students being able to utilize other spaces and getting to and from some of their homes, I think we should look into it at $116,000. Now, I'm not going to hold you to that number, but my reaction was that sounds like a deal for all that, and also then including better routing. So I think we need more information to make a decision with you, but that to me seems like a to pursue that at least makes sense.
I concur, that it does. Makes sense.
I agree as well,
Yeah.
because I think you can, if we go with 1C, that would be like almost like temporary kind of,
Band-Aid.
and then, like doing that recreation drive would give us like a more future like benefit.
Right.
So we should definitely look into it and then come back and then reevaluate it again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if we decide not to use that road for the routing at this time, at least then it's an option for us in the future if we have to. We could think that 1C would work fine and then it might not, so why close that door? At least let's find out,
Okay.
if it's a good,
The-
good option.
Could I just, because we have a lot of expertise to back 3-4 people there. You've been talking about it. I mean, do you agree with that we should look into it so the village and/or other parties share in this, or are we making too much out of it? What would you think? Does it make sense to take another step?
It's good to check all of your options.
Yeah.
So,
See what's available, see what it looks like.
right, so I'm hearing, one, the summary back to you of some of the information today, but Jennifer should move forward with 2A, B, and C to see what our options are with that conversation, and then bring that information back.
Yeah.
And whatever we decide, whatever we go, discuss, it should be losing the least amount of spaces for parking.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'd like to see what, like a 1C amended to show what would the cost be to get those extra, we talked about adding that other row, because I think that's probably needed, at least in my opinion, to not lose. So that makes it a little bit more palatable, that 1C option.
To get us some forward movement, then we're going to completely eliminate 1A and 1B and to bring back information with that conversation
That makes
and
sense.
other options of 1C with limited elimination of parking.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay.
I'm glad that this opportunity came up because of this drive to really look at, I know, it's not ideal, the situation there, and it's weaving in nice timing-wise with our master facility plan, and so exciting to think about a better situation, even though my daughter will be gone for the future.
I think that today we had the first actual what's our next step conversation, so thank you.
All right, well, that was a long one, but good. Item 4.9,
Just
Oh,
I'd
sorry.
like to thank everybody out there for
Yeah,
your
thank you.
input, because there's a lot of smart people in this room that have done a lot more than this than we the board members, so thank you for that.
yes, thank you. Item 4.9, display the 2024-2025 tentative budget and publish the public hearing notice.
So I have the tentative budget. We will go through this again at the regular board meeting. I have a presentation. One of the things that we have done is that we want to stick with our mission statement of providing engaging and inclusive educational experiences that empower and equip all our students to discover, innovate, and succeed now and in the future. When we partner that with our vision statement, to empower and equip each student to reach their highest potential in their chosen pathway, that is the focus on how we budget strategically. I brought these earlier in April. These are our revenue assumptions for this budget. Levy year 23, which we approved in December, came back that we actually got $94 million in new property, and we utilized a 5% CPI. I'm estimating that we'll have conservatively $50 million in new property, and 3.4 CPI is known at this time. Our interest is calculated by PMA on our projected fund balances through our cash flow analysis. Again, as we stated earlier, we waived our student fees for the third year. And we have a 25% reduction in our corporate personal property replacement tax, and that is due to the economy and just the results after the pandemic. Our evidence-based funding, when I brought this to you in April, we're estimating $3 million. Then final numbers came through, and the district is getting $6.4 million. In my budget, I estimated $3 million, and you'll see that later on. The extra $3.4 million is, I'm redirecting that to the capital projects fund to plan for our master facility plan and just enhance our students' experiences. Other state revenue is flat. And again, federal ESSER sunrises, or sunsets, and this budget reflects that. When we look at our operating funds budget revenue by source, we are at $367.6 million. Of that, 66.3% is local funds, which is made up of property taxes and interest overall. 27.1% is from the state, and that's from our evidence-based funding, and transportation claims, special education claims, and then our early childhood grants. 6.5% is our federal, and that's from our National School Lunch Program claims for food service. IDEA grant, which is our, let me make sure, individual, I want to make sure I say this correctly. I say it by IDEA. It's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grants. Our Medicaid reimbursements and Title I allocations. When we look at our expenditure assumptions, our salaries are per our negotiated agreements. And again, we will be entering into negotiations this coming year with LEAD. Our health insurance is relatively flat. We did have a huge increase last year, but our claims have relatively become stable because we are past that influx of just the pandemic procedures being done. Tuition and outplacements are increased at 5%. And I've increased our charter school payment to 4% because preliminary we've shown some increase in attendance there. Transportation and food service are per our contracts. Sanitation, water, and sewer, all the fun things are at 4%. General liability, workers' comp is at 3.5%, and that is a known. Inflation factor, wanted to build that in at 3.5% for supplies and fuel. When we look at our operating fund budget, we're at $365.8 million. As you'll see here, 50% of that is made up of salaries and 15.7% is made up of benefits. And of course, that is the largest expenditure that the school district has. 18.4% is of purchase services. And as I said before, that's our transportation, food service, and our substitute service, as well as our charter school payment. The remaining items make up the rest of our expenditures, and you will see that there's another use there for 4.4%. What that other use is the $12 million budget transfer, fund transfer from our operation and manage fund to our capital project fund. And again, that's using for long-term projects. And then there's $2.5 million in there for our operating debt certificates. Whoops. Overall, our operating funds cover day-to-day expenses. Again, total revenues were $367.6 million. Total expenditures with other uses, $365.8. We have a balanced budget with a projection of $1.8 million surplus. Again, to promote financial stability, the percent of compliance with the board's fund balance policy is to maintain a minimum fund balance equal to 30% of working operating expenses. And currently, we are projecting at 35%. When we take into consideration our debt fund as well as our capital projects fund, our total revenues, which is so hard to believe, is $401 million. Our total expenditures is $398.3 million. So what you're looking at here is a $3 million surplus for all funds. Our major initiatives this year have been for student supports, curriculum enhancement, technology upgrades, and of course, our projects and our master facility plan. The district's financial health is the strongest it's been. We've talked about that the last couple of years, and we just continue to get stronger. But we need to remain diligent to ensure long-term stability and sustainability. And of course, key challenges are inflation and the economy, continued student growth on the west side of the district, and anything that does happen at the state of downstate, because any legislative changes and funding levels will affect us. Here's our commitment to financial health and educational excellence. Despite challenges, District 300 remains committed to maintaining financial health and ensuring the best outcomes for our students. By staying vigilant and proactive, we can navigate these uncertainties and continue to provide a high-quality education. Tonight, you will be asked to vote on the tentative budget, to vote on authorization for it to be put on display, and to set the date for the public hearing, which will be September 24th. On September 24th, we'll hold the budget hearing and we'll vote on the adoption of the 24-25 budget. And then by September 30th, statutorily, I have to file it with all required entities, and we will post it on the district's website. And again, here's our tagline: discover, innovate, and succeed. Are there any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5, announcements, which is that the next Board Operations Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 10th at 4:30 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.